All new tonight on the Night Team.
You're gambling with World War III.
Following a heated exchange in the White House between Presidents Trump and Zelensky, Louisvillians gathered at the steps of Metro Hall in support of Ukraine.
We turn our backs on those who are fighting for their freedom. Then what does that say about us?
Their message as the war rages on. Plus, we're learning more about the 18-year-old who fatally stabbed his 15-year-old girlfriend in the Iroquois neighborhood. And later, a teacher shortage felt all over the country.
And it's not just Louisville area, it's not just Kentucky, it's a nationwide issue.
How Kentucky organizations are trying to fill the gaps. Right now on the WHAS11 Night Team. Frustrations motivated at least 100 people to gather on the steps of Metro Hall today in support for Ukraine. Thanks for joining us here late on the Night Team. I'm Alex Dieterer. This was after a heated exchange in the Oval Office between President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Ukrainian President Zelensky. WHAS 11 Night Team's Clarice Shaley and photojournalist Aspen Hester were at the rally today in downtown Louisville, where they heard calls for a continued alliance with Ukraine.
Do we stand with Ukraine? Do we stand with Ukraine?
At the steps of Metro Hall, standing for democracy in Louisville, at least 100 people showed their support for Ukraine.
And after the fiasco in the Oval Office on Friday, I am so angry.
This rally was organized days after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky went to the Oval Office to negotiate a deal with the Trump administration and was kicked out after a heated exchange with President Trump and Vice President Vance.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
I cannot recognize my beloved adopted country. What happened to us?
Angela Katz is a Ukrainian American living in Louisville.
30 million people are living through war every single day.
And is reacting to the pushback from the White House.
J.D. Vance seems to believe that Ukraine has not paid enough. Your math is wrong, sir.
There's fear and frustration with what's happening in Ukraine and with how the Trump administration is handling things.
I stand with Ukraine. I also stand against bullies, and I stand for those who fight against bullies.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended Trump's actions on This Week with George Stephanopoulos.
I think what's really important here is to understand the dynamic. The president is basically saying there's this horrible war. It's been going on for 3 years. It is a bloody stalemate, a meat grinder type war, and he wants it to end.
Rubio said he hasn't spoke with the Ukrainian president, but said Zelensky's comments in the Oval Office run counter to efforts to negotiate an end to the war.
You're not going to bring him to the table if you're calling him names, if you're being antagonistic. That's just the president's instincts from years and years and years of putting together deals as someone who's in business.
Local, state, and national lawmakers expressing their frustrations with President Trump's diplomacy. New District 4 Metro Council member Ken Herndon.
It's clear to me that Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance are fascist Russian appeasers.
And Kentucky Representative Nima Kilcarney.
Cause is our cause. Because when democracy is under attack anywhere, it is under attack everywhere.
Who both joined Congressman Morgan McGarvey in their support of remaining allies with Ukraine.
That is not just what we have at home, but what we're helping to spread abroad to keep world peace. We don't want to see that taken away.
Sources tell ABC the Trump administration is strongly considering cutting off military support as Ukraine fights for survival amid the ongoing war with Russia. This as the war continues to rage. Russian forces making more ballistic missile strikes into the country as Ukrainians look for an end to Russia's 3-year onslaught. In Louisville, Clarice Shaley, WHAS 11 Night Team on your side.
As it ramped up its efforts to end the war in Ukraine, the Trump administration has faced criticism for publicly saying Kyiv will ultimately have to cede territory to Moscow and throwing cold waters on Ukraine's NATO ambitions. Rubio once again refused to acknowledge if Russia would need to make any concessions in order to end the war. Meanwhile, European leaders rallied together to throw their full weight behind Ukraine as the British Prime Minister announced outlines of a plan to end Russia's war. The steps include keeping the peace flowing to Kyiv and maintaining economic pressure on Russia. European leaders also agreed to continue to arm Ukraine to deter future invasions. And they said that Ukraine would need to be at the bargaining table for any peace deals made. Trump, over the last month, has said he has spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin about peace without inviting Ukraine to the negotiations.
We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead, and to unite around a new plan for a just and enduring peace.
The British Prime Minister was quick to shut down questions about the reliability of the U.S., saying his call for increased arms spending was not a sign. And we have an update tonight on the fatal stabbing of a 15-year-old who was in the Iroquois neighborhood last night. An 18-year-old has now been charged with murder. Police arrested Caden Sevier in connection with the stabbing. Court documents say Sevier and the victim were dating and that he admitted to stabbing the victim. A witness told police she heard the two in the bedroom of a home on Buckner Avenue and heard the victim asking to be let out of the room. The witness allegedly attempted to open the door but could not. Court documents say the witness ran outside and opened the bedroom window and saw the victim on the ground. Sevier allegedly jumped out of the window and ran to the Value Mart in the Iroquois Manor shopping center. Police were able to catch up with Sevier and arrest him, and he's now been charged with murder and is expected in court tomorrow morning. And new tonight, a person is dead after a crash on the outer loop. LMPD responded to the crash just before 3:30 this afternoon at the intersection of Outer Loop and Minor Lane. Police say a silver car T-boned a white car. The driver of the silver car was transported to the hospital with injuries where they are expected to survive. But the driver of the white car was pronounced dead on the scene. No charges are known at this time.